Have you ever felt the darkness of a buried secret, as if it were waiting for a moment to burst forth under the moonlight? Could one man shake up a hidden truth? Come on, this is really interesting, isn't it? Follow me, let's explore this mysterious truth together. I wake before dawn, like always. The air in Silver Hollow bites at my skin, sharp as a blade, even in late summer. My boots crunch on the frost-kissed dirt as I head to the corral, where my cattle low softly, their breath steaming in the chill. This town, nestled in a valley cradled by jagged peaks, ain't much to look at. A cluster of weathered clapboard buildings, a saloon that never sleeps, and the ever-present hum of the silver mine that's the beating heart of this place. But Silver Hollow's got secrets, dark ones, buried deeper than the veins of ore running through its hills. I'm Jacob Tanner, a cattleman who spent 30 years driving herds across these plains, and I've seen enough to know that trouble don't just ride into a town like this. It's born here, festering in the shadows. Before we start, give us a like, drop a silver in the comments, and subscribe. There's a shocking reveal you gotta see. The morning sun claws its way over the mountains, painting the valley in hues of gold and blood. My ranch sits a mile outside town, close enough to smell the coal smoke from the mine, but far enough to feel the quiet of the open land. From my porch, I can see the sprawl of Silver Hollow, its main street lined with shops, the church steeple poking at the sky, and the looming skeleton of the mine's headframe, like some giant beast crouched over the town. That mine's been a blessing and a curse. It brought wealth, sure, but it also brought men like Vernon Holt, the mine's owner, whose money buys loyalty and silence. And it brought the Cheyenne, or what's left of them, pushed off their sacred lands to make way for silver. I've heard the whispers, the stories of stolen treaties and blood spilled under moonlight. Out here, truth is a dangerous thing, and most folks learn to keep their heads down. I ain't one for town gossip, but you can't help hearing things when you drive cattle to market. The saloon's where the real talk happens, over whiskey and cards. Men let slip what they wouldn't dare say in daylight. They talk about Mary Redstone, a Cheyenne woman who came to Silver Hollow 6 years back, clutching papers she claimed proved the mine was built on stolen land. Sacred land, she said, where her ancestors' bones rest. She was trouble, they said, a half-breed stirring up problems no one wanted. Then one night, she was gone. Vanished, they claimed, like she'd never been. But I've seen enough death to know it don't come quiet. And her boy, Elias, folks said he died with her, but I never believed it. Kids like that, born tough, they survive. This morning, as I saddle my horse to ride into town, something feels off. The air's too still, like the world's holding its breath. My dog, Rusty, whines at the gate, his ears twitching. I pat his head, muttering, "Easy, boy, just another day." But it ain't. I can feel it in my bones, the way you feel a storm coming before the clouds roll in. Silver Hollow's got a sickness, and it's about to break wide open. I ride into town, the familiar clatter of hooves on dirt grounding me. Main Street's waking up, Clara Bennett sweeping the steps of her general store, her face lined with the kind of grief only a mother who's lost a child carries. The saloon's already got a few drunks staggering out, and the blacksmith's hammer rings steady as a heartbeat. But there's a tension here, a tightness in the way folks glance at each other, like they're waiting for something to snap. I tie my horse outside Clara's store, nodding to her as I pass. She gives me a tired smile, but her eyes dart to the alley beside her shop, where shadows linger longer than they should. That's when I see him. Elias Redstone. He's just a kid, no more than 13, all bones and dirt, his clothes more rags than fabric. He's crouched in the alley, clutching a stale loaf of bread like it's gold. His eyes, though, God, those eyes. They burn with something fierce, something that says he's seen too much for his years. I've seen that look before, in men who've come back from war, in women who've buried their young. It's the look of someone who's got nothing left to lose. Before I can call out, 3 men round the corner. Sheriff Amos Crane leads them, his badge glinting like a warning. Behind him is Vernon Holt, the mine's owner, his tailored coat out of place in this dusty town, and Jed Harper, a merchant who's always quick with a smile but slower with the truth. They've got Elias pinned, their voices low and mean. "Thief!" Amos snarls, grabbing the boy by the collar. "You think you can steal from honest folks and walk away?" Elias doesn't flinch, even as Amos shakes him. That bread, I know, came from Clara's store. probably scraps she'd toss out anyway. But this ain't about bread. It's about power, about showing a kid like Elias he don't belong. I should keep walking. I've got cattle to check, a fence to mend, a life to keep together. But something stops me. Maybe it's the way Elias's ribs poke through his shirt, or the way his jaw sets, defiant even in fear. Maybe it's the memory of my own son, lost to fever a decade ago, his small hand cold in mine. I don't know. All I know is I can't turn away. "Hey, Amos," I call, stepping into the alley. My voice is steady, but my heart's pounding like a stampede. "Let the kid go. Ain't worth your time over a piece of bread." Amos turns, his eyes narrowing. He's a big man, broad as a barn door, with a temper to match. "Stay out of this, Tanner," he says, his hand resting on his revolver. "This little rat's been trouble for weeks." Vernon Holt steps forward, his smile cold as winter. "Jacob, you're a good man. Don't go sticking your nose where it don't belong." I hold his gaze, my hands itching to ball into fists. I've known Vernon for years, known the way he buys men's souls with silver, the way he twists truth to suit his needs. "What's a kid like that gonna steal that's worth all this?" I ask, nodding at the bread. Jed Harper holds it up, his face smug. "Took it right off Clara's shelf. Theft's theft, Tanner." But I see the truth in their eyes. This ain't about the bread, it's about Elias, about who he is, about what he knows. Clara steps out of her store, her apron dusted with flour. She's a small woman, but there's steel in her spine. "I gave him that bread," she lies, her voice calm but firm. "No theft here, Sheriff." Amos's face twists, caught off guard. Vernon's smile falters, and Jed looks like he swallowed a nail. I feel a spark of pride for Clara. She's risking everything for a kid she barely knows. But Elias, he's trembling now, his eyes darting between the men. "My name's Elias Redstone," he whispers, so soft I almost miss it. That name hits them like a bullet. Amos's grip loosens, and Vernon takes a step back, his face pale as ash. Jed mutters something under his breath, his eyes wide. "Redstone. I know that name. Mary Redstone's boy. The woman who came to town with papers that could have shut down the mine. The woman who disappeared. I feel a chill, like the winds carrying ghosts. These men, they know something about Elias, something they're desperate to keep buried. Don't blink now. The next part's gonna turn this town upside down." Clara steps closer, her hand on Elias's shoulder. "When's the last time you ate, son?" she asks, her voice soft as a prayer. Elias's laugh is bitter, broken. "Ain't had a real meal in months, ma'am." My stomach twists. I've seen hunger before, seen it drive men to madness, seen it kill slower than any bullet. Clara's eyes meet mine, and I see the same fire there, the same refusal to look away. She's made her choice, and damn it, so have I. "Take him inside," I tell her, my voice low. "I'll watch the door." Amos glares at me, his hand still on his gun, but he knows better than to push it. Not with me, not with Clara, not in broad daylight with half the town watching from their windows. They back off, muttering threats, their boots kicking up dust as they retreat. But I see the way Vernon glances back, his eyes like a wolf's, hungry and afraid. Whatever Elias knows, it's enough to scare men who don't scare easy. Inside Clara's store, Elias devours a plate of jerky and biscuits like a starved dog. He's wary, his eyes flicking to the door every few seconds, like he expects it to burst open. Clara sits across from him, her hands folded, her face gentle but searching. "Your name," she says. "Redstone. Why'd it spook them so bad?" Elias freezes, his jaw tight. For a moment, I think he won't answer. Then he speaks, his voice barely above a whisper. "My ma was Mary Redstone. She came here to fight for our land. They killed her for it." The words hit me like a kick from a mule. Mary Redstone. I remember her, tall, proud, with eyes that could cut through lies. She'd stood in the town square, holding up papers, talking about justice, about sacred ground. Then she was gone, and folks said she'd run off. But I'd seen the blood on the road out of town, seen the way Vernon's men patrolled it for days after. I'd told myself it was bandits, told myself it wasn't my fight. But looking at Elias, at the pain carved into his young face, I know I was wrong. "What happened to her?" I ask, my voice rough. Elias's eyes meet mine, and I see it, the weight of a truth too heavy for a kid to carry. "They shot her," he says. "In the back. I was in the wagon hiding. I saw it all. Sheriff Amos, Vernon, Jed, they were there. They thought I was dead too, left me in the woods. But I crawled out. Took me 3 days to find help." My blood runs cold. I've known these men my whole life, shared drinks with Amos, sold cattle to Jed, shaken Vernon's hand. And all this time, they were murderers. I look at Clara, and her face is pale, her hands trembling. But there's a fire in her eyes too, a mother's fire. "You're safe here," she tells Elias, her voice fierce. "They won't touch you." But even as she says it, I hear it, the low rumble in the distance, like thunder rolling across the plains. It ain't thunder though, it's hooves, hundreds of them, shaking the earth. I step to the window, my heart pounding. On the horizon, a line of riders appears, moving fast, their black coats billowing like storm clouds. Women, every one of them, their rifles glinting in the fading light. They ride into Silver Hollow like an army of angels, or maybe demons, depending on who you ask. At their head is a woman with hair like snow, her face carved from stone and starlight. Isabel Dawn, they call her, leader of the Daughters of Truth. The town stops breathing. Folks spill out of their homes, their shops, their faces a mix of fear and wonder. I've heard of these women, vigilantes some say, outlaws others claim. But the way they move, precise as soldiers, tells me there's something else entirely. They're here for Elias, for Mary Redstone, for the truth this town buried 6 years ago. And as they surround the square, their rifles raised, I know Silver Hollow will never be the same. My heart's racing now, not from fear but from something bigger, something like hope, or maybe justice. I've spent my life on the sidelines, herding cattle, minding my own. But today, standing in Clara's store, watching Elias face his past, I know I'm part of this. This town, this boy, this fight, it's mine now too. And as the Daughters of Truth call out for Elias Redstone, their voices ringing like a church bell, I feel it. The storm's here, and it's gonna wash this town clean. The dust from the alley still clings to my boots as I stand in Clara Bennett's general store, the air thick with the scent of flour and dried apples. Elias Redstone sits at a small table in the back, his bony hands clutching a plate of jerky and biscuits Clara set in front of him. The kid eats like he's afraid the food'll vanish, his eyes darting to the door every few seconds, like a deer sensing a wolf. I lean against the counter, my arms crossed, trying to make sense of what just happened outside. Sheriff Amos Crane, Vernon Holt, and Jed Harper. 3 men who run this town like it's their personal kingdom, backing off from a kid over a loaf of bread. But it ain't the bread that's got them spooked, it's Elias. It's his name, Redstone. I can still see the way Vernon's face went white, like he'd seen a ghost. Clara's moving around the store, her hands steady but her eyes betraying the storm inside her. She's a small woman, maybe 40, with lines around her eyes that tell a story of loss. Her daughter Emily died 3 years back from smallpox, and I've seen Clara carry that grief like a stone in her chest. Yet here she is, risking everything for a boy she don't know, lying to the sheriff's face to protect him. "Eat slow, son," she says softly, sliding a tin cup of water toward Elias. "No one's gonna take it from you." Her voice is gentle, but there's iron in it, the kind that comes from surviving things that'd break most folks. I shift my weight, the floorboards creaking under my boots. "Clara," I say, keeping my voice low. "You sure about this? Amos ain't the type to let things slide." She glances at me, her lips pressing into a thin line. "Jacob Tanner, I've known you 20 years, and you ain't never been one to walk away from what's right. Don't start now." Her words hit me like a slap, not because they're harsh, but because they're true. I've spent my life on the open range, herding cattle, keeping my head down. But something about this kid, about the way Clara's standing up to men who could ruin her, makes me feel like I've been running from something my whole life. Elias pauses, a piece of jerky halfway to his mouth. His eyes, dark, sharp, too old for his 13 years, meet mine. "You don't have to do this," he says, his voice rough, like he's trying to sound tougher than he feels. They'll come for you too if you help me. There's fear in his words, but something else too. Guilt, maybe, or shame for dragging us into his mess. I crouch down, level with him, my knees creaking from years of riding. Kid, I say. I've faced down stampedes and blizzards. A few bullies and badges don't scare me. It's half a lie. I'm plenty scared, not of Amos or Vernon, but of what this town's become, of the secrets it's buried. Clara kneels beside Elias, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. Tell us, Elias, why'd they react like that to your name? The boy's jaw tightens, and for a moment, I think he'll shut down. But then he speaks, his voice barely above a whisper, each word heavy with pain. My ma was Mary Redstone. She came here 6 years ago with papers. Proof the mines on Cheyenne land, stolen through lies and blood. They killed her for it, shot her in the back while I watched from the wagon. His hands tremble, and he clenches them into fists. They thought I was dead too, left me in the woods bleeding. But I crawled out. Took me days, but I made it. The air in the store feels heavy, like it's pressing down on us. I've heard stories about Mary Redstone, whispers in the saloon, tales of a Cheyenne woman who stirred up trouble and paid for it. But hearing it from her son, seeing the truth in his eyes, it's like a knife twisting in my gut. Clara's face is pale, her eyes shining with tears she won't let fall. You're safe here, she says, her voice fierce now. I swear it, Elias, they won't touch you. But even as she speaks, I see the doubt in her eyes. Amos, Vernon, Jed, they're not just men. They're the pillars of Silver Hollow, and they'll burn this place down before they let their secrets see daylight. I step to the window, peering out at the street. It's quiet now, too quiet. The kind of stillness that comes before a storm. Clara, I say, we need to keep him hidden. Amos will be back, and he won't be alone. She nods, already moving, pulling a blanket from a shelf to drape over Elias's shoulders. There's a storeroom in the back, she says. He can stay there tonight. Elias shakes his head, his eyes wide. You don't understand. They'll hurt you. They'll hurt anyone who helps me. His voice cracks, and for the first time he looks like the kid he is. Scared, alone, carrying a weight no child should bear. I put a hand on his arm, firm but gentle. Listen, Elias. I've spent my life running cattle, not fights. But I know one thing. You don't let a man like Vernon Holt decide who lives or dies. You're not alone anymore. His eyes search mine, looking for a lie, but he won't find one. Clara's already moving, clearing a space in the storeroom, stacking crates to hide the entrance. She's calm, deliberate, like she's done this before, though I know she hasn't. It's the kind of strength that comes from losing everything and still choosing to stand. As we settle Elias in the storeroom, the rumble starts, low at first, like distant thunder, but growing louder, shaking the ground beneath us. I know that sound. Hooves, hundreds of them. I rush to the window, my heart pounding. On the horizon, a line of riders appears, their black coats flowing like shadows. Women, every one of them, their rifles gleaming in the dusk. They ride into Silver Hollow like a tide, unstoppable, their horses moving with a precision that speaks of purpose. At their head is a woman with hair like moonlight, her face fierce and unyielding. Isabel Dawn, I realize, the name whispered in saloons like a legend. The daughters of truth have come. The town freezes, folks spilling out of their homes, their faces a mix of fear and awe. I turn to Elias, who's crept to the window beside me, his eyes wide but not scared, hopeful, maybe, for the first time since I met him. They're here, he whispers, his voice trembling with something I can't name. They found me. Clara's hand tightens on my arm, her breath catching. We're in deep now, all of us, and there's no going back. The daughters of truth have come for Elias, for justice, and Silver Hollow's about to face its reckoning. The rumble of hooves fades as the daughters of truth take their positions, surrounding the town square like a noose tightening. I'm still at Clara's window, my breath fogging the glass, watching as Silver Hollow holds its breath. Elias is beside me, his small frame tense, his eyes locked on the riders. The town's awake now, lanterns flickering in windows, folks stepping onto porches, their faces pale in the moonlight. They don't know what's coming, but I do. I feel it in my gut, the way I feel a storm brewing on the range. This ain't just about a boy or a loaf of bread. It's about a truth this town buried 6 years ago, a truth that's clawing its way to the surface. Clara's voice pulls me back. Elias, she says, her tone soft but urgent. "What do you mean they found you?" The boy's hands are clenched, his knuckles white. He looks at her, then at me, and I see it. The weight of a secret he's carried too long. "My ma," he says, his voice low. "She wasn't just some drifter. She was Mary Redstone, daughter of Hannah Redstone, a Cheyenne elder. She came to Silver Hollow with papers, legal documents proving the mine was built on our land, stolen through forged treaties and murdered witnesses. She wanted justice, not war, but they didn't care." I lean against the wall, my head spinning. I've heard bits and pieces over the years, rumors about the Cheyenne, about land deals gone wrong. But Mary Redstone's name carries a different weight now, spoken by her son, a boy who saw her die. "What happened that night?" I ask, my voice rougher than I mean it to be. Elias's eyes go distant, like he's seeing it all again. "I was 7, he says, hiding in the wagon, under a blanket. Ma was riding to meet a lawyer in the next town. She had the papers with her, proof the mine was illegal, but they were waiting. Amos, Vernon, Jed. I heard them talking, laughing, like it was a game. Then the gunshot. Ma fell, and I couldn't move, couldn't scream. They dragged me out, saw I was still breathing, and threw me into the woods. Said the wolves would finish me." My chest tightens, and I have to look away. I've seen cruelty, cattle rustlers, men who'd kill for $1. But this is different. This is a town I've called home, men I've shared drinks with, murdering a woman and her child to protect their money. Clara's hand covers her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You survived," she whispers. "You made it out." Elias nods, his jaw tight. "A trapper found me, half dead. Took me to an orphanage in Cheyenne. I didn't tell anyone my name, not for years. But I came back. I had to. For Ma." The pieces are falling into place, each one heavier than the last. The mine, the lifeblood of Silver Hollow, built on stolen land. Mary Redstone, a woman who dared to fight for what was right, silenced with a bullet. And Elias, her son, a living reminder of their crime. I look out the window again, at the Daughters of Truth, their rifles glinting like stars. They're not just here for Elias, they're here for the truth, for the blood spilled on that road 6 years ago. A sharp knock rattles the door, and my heart jumps. Clara motions for Elias to hide, pointing to the storeroom. He slips behind the crates, silent as a shadow. I follow Clara to the door, my hand resting on the knife at my belt. It ain't much against Amos's revolver, but it's something. Clara opens the door, and there they are. Amos Crane, Vernon Holt, and a third man I don't recognize, his suit too fine for this dusty town. "Evening, Clara," Amos says, his voice smooth but laced with menace. "Mind if we have a word?" It ain't a question. They push past her, their eyes scanning the store like hawks. "We heard you had a visitor," Vernon says, his smile cold as ice. "A boy, Elias Redstone." The way he says the name makes my skin crawl, like it's poison on his tongue. Clara stands her ground, her voice steady. "I don't know any Elias Redstone. I get plenty of customers, Vernon. You'll have to be more specific." The suited man steps forward, his eyes sharp. "Don't play games, Mrs. Bennett. We know he's here, and we know what he represents." I feel a chill, not just from his words, but from the fear behind them. These men ain't just angry, they're scared. I step forward, my voice low. "What's a kid like that got to do with men like you? He's just a boy, Vernon." Amos laughs, but it's forced, brittle. "Just a boy? That little savage is a walking problem, Tanner. His kind don't belong here." His words hit me like a fist. His kind. Cheyenne. I've heard that talk before. In saloons, in cattle camps, men who think they own the world because their skin's a certain shade. But before I can answer, the ground shakes again, the rumble of hooves growing louder, closer. The men freeze, their faces paling. I move to the window, and what I see stops my breath. The Daughters of Truth, 200 strong, ride into the square, their horses moving like a single beast. Isabel Dawn raises a hand, and they stop, their rifles raised in perfect unison. The town's awake now, folks crowding the streets, their faces a mix of fear and curiosity. Amos curses under his breath, his hand on his gun. "They can't do this," he mutters. "This is my town." But his voice shakes, and I know he's wrong. This ain't his town anymore. The square's a battlefield now, not of bullets, but of truth. And I'm caught in the middle, my heart pounding like a war drum. The Daughters of Truth have formed a circle around Silver Hollow's heart, their horses snorting, their rifles steady. Isabel Dawn sits tall in her saddle, her white hair glowing in the moonlight, her voice cutting through the night like a blade. "People of Silver Hollow," she calls. "We are the Daughters of Truth, and we've come for justice, for Mary Redstone, for her son Elias, for the land you've stolen and the blood you've spilled." I'm still in Clara's store, Elias hidden in the storeroom, but I can't tear my eyes from the scene outside. The townsfolk are gathered, their faces lit by lanterns, some angry, some scared, some just confused. I've known these people my whole life, blacksmiths, shopkeepers, miners, but tonight, they're strangers, caught in a truth they've ignored too long. Amos and Vernon are in the square now, flanked by a dozen men with rifles, but they look small, like rats cornered by wolves. The suited man, some lawyer from the mine I reckon, stands with them, his face pale but defiant. Clara's beside me, her hand gripping my arm. "Jacob," she whispers, "what are they gonna do?" I don't have an answer. All I know is that Isabel Dawn and her riders didn't come this far to back down. Another woman rides forward, her face weathered but strong, her eyes dark and fierce. Hannah Redstone, Elias's grandmother. I know at the moment I see her, the same cheekbones, the same fire. "My daughter Mary Redstone," she says, her voice carrying over the crowd, "came to this town seeking justice. She carried proof that your mine was built on Cheyenne land, stolen through lies and murder, and you killed her for it." The crowd murmurs, shock rippling through them. Most of these folks never knew Mary, never heard her story. They've worked the mine, raised their kids, lived their lives, not knowing the blood it's built on. Vernon steps forward, his voice loud but shaky. "Lies," he says. "Mary Redstone was a troublemaker, spreading stories to stir up the savages." The word cuts through the air, and I feel Clara tense beside me. Hannah's eyes narrow, but she doesn't flinch. "Lies?" she says. "We have the papers she carried. We have bank records showing your payments to Amos Crane. We have the bullet that killed my daughter, dug from her body, matching the sheriff's gun." The crowd's turning now, their murmurs growing louder, angrier. I see it in their faces. Blacksmith Tom, who's always been fair, Widow Hayes, who's raised 3 kids on her own, even old preacher Daniels clutching his Bible like it's a shield. They're starting to see the truth, and it's tearing them apart. Amos pulls his gun, his face red with rage. "You got no authority here," he shouts. "This is a lawful town." But Isabel laughs, cold and sharp. "Lawful? Is it lawful to murder a woman and her child for money? To steal land that's been sacred for centuries?" Elias slips out of the storeroom, his face pale but set. "I have to go out there," he says, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. Clara grabs his arm. "No, Elias, it's too dangerous." But he shakes his head. "They came for me. My grandmother came for me. I can't hide anymore." I look at him, the skinny kid who's seen more pain than most men twice his age, and I feel something break inside me, pride maybe, or shame for all the times I looked the other way. "Go," I say, my voice rough. "We're with you." He steps into the square, and the crowd falls silent. A boy, no more than 13, standing in the moonlight, facing men who've killed to keep their power. "I'm Elias Redstone," he calls, his voice carrying across the square. "My mother was Mary Redstone. I saw what you did to her. I saw Amos shoot her. I saw Vernon give the order. I saw Jed stand by and laugh." The words hit like bullets, each one finding its mark. Amos swings his gun toward Elias, his hand shaking. "You're lying, boy. You were a kid. You don't know what you saw." But Elias doesn't back down. "I was 7, he says, his voice clear as a bell. "I hid in the wagon. I saw everything. And after you shot her, you threw me in the woods, thinking I'd die. But I didn't. I crawled out, and I'm here now, telling the truth." The crowd erupts, shouts of anger and disbelief filling the air. I see Tom the blacksmith step forward, his hammer in hand. Widow Hayes is crying, her hands clenched. Preacher Daniel starts praying, loud enough for everyone to hear. Hannah rides closer, her rifle trained on Amos. "Tell them," she says, her voice deadly calm. Tell them what you did to my grandson. Elias looks at Amos, his eyes burning. You left me to die, he says. Broke my arm, cracked my skull, and left me for the wolves, but a trapper found me, and now I'm back. Amos's face is gray, his gun trembling. Vernon tries to speak, but his words are drowned out by the crowd's growing rage. Isabel pulls a leather portfolio from her saddlebag. We have proof, she says. Witness statements from the trapper who found Elias. Bank records showing Amos's bribes. The bullet that killed Mary Redstone marked by his gun. The evidence is a death knell, and I see the moment Amos breaks, his shoulders sagging, his gun lowering. Vernon lunges for a fallen rifle, but Tom kicks it away, his face twisted with disgust. You made us part of this, Tom says. We trusted you. The Daughters of Truth move in, their rifles steady, their horses closing the circle. The guilty are surrounded, the innocent stepping back, choosing sides. I look at Clara, her face fierce with pride and fear. Elias stands tall, a boy carrying the weight of a nation's pain, and I know this is it. The moment Silver Hollow changes forever. Dawn's breaking over Silver Hollow, the sky bleeding red and gold as the Daughters of Truth load Amos Crane and Vernon Holt into a prisoner wagon. Jed Harper's with them, his head bowed, his hands bound. The crowd watches, silent now, their anger spent, replaced by a heavy kind of hope. I'm standing with Clara outside her store, Elias beside us, his small frame straighter than it was yesterday. Hannah Redstone sits on her horse, her eyes on her grandson, tears shining but not falling. The town's awake, but it's different. Raw, like a wound that's finally been cleaned. The night was long, longer than any I've lived through. After Elias spoke, the crowd turned, their trust in Amos and Vernon shattered. Tom the blacksmith was the first to act, kicking away Vernon's gun, his voice shaking with betrayal. I worked your mine, he said. I fed my kids with your money, and you made me part of a murder. Widow Hayes stepped up next, her voice sharp. We believed in you, Amos. We thought you kept us safe. One by one, the townsfolk spoke, their stories weaving a tapestry of guilt and awakening. Preacher Daniels prayed for forgiveness, not just for the guilty, but for all of us who'd looked away. Isabel Dawn held up the partnership agreement, her voice carrying over the square. The Cheyenne don't want your town destroyed, she said. Mary Redstone wanted partnership, not revenge. The mine can stay, but it'll be a joint venture. Shared profits, fair wages, the sacred lands protected. The crowd murmured, some nodding, some still scared. They're practical folks, with families to feed, bills to pay. But Elias stepped forward, his voice stronger than any boy's should be. My ma believed in fairness, he said. She wanted everyone to prosper, not just a few. That's what I want too. I look at him now, standing beside Hannah, and I see a future I didn't know was possible. He's not the scared kid from the alley anymore. He's Mary Redstone's son, Hannah's grandson, a boy who's carried the truth through years of pain and come out stronger. Clara kneels beside him, her hand on his shoulder. You did good, Elias, she says, her voice thick with tears. You brought her back in a way. Elias looks at her, his eyes soft. Thank you, ma'am, for the bread, for believing me. Clara smiles, and I feel my own throat tighten. She's the hero here, not me. One small act of kindness, giving a kid a meal, and it changed everything. Hannah dismounts, her movement slow but sure. She takes Clara's hand, her voice low. You gave my grandson a home when he had none. You're family now, if you ever need us. Clara nods, tears spilling now, and I know she feels it. The weight of being part of something bigger than herself. Isabel approaches me, her eyes sharp but kind. You stood with them, Tanner, she says. That's rare in a place like this. I shrug, uncomfortable with the praise. Just did what was right, I mutter. She smiles, and it's like the sun breaking through clouds. That's how justice starts, she says. One choice at a time. The Daughters of Truth ride out as the sun climbs higher, their black coats fading into the horizon. Elias goes with them, sitting behind Hannah, his face calm, like he's finally found his place. The prisoner wagon rolls away, bound for the territorial capital, where Amos and Vernon will face a trial they can't bribe their way out of. The evidence, papers, witnesses, that damn bullet will bury them. Silver Hollow's quiet now, but it's a different quiet. Not the silence of fear, but the stillness of a town starting over. Clara and I stand in the square watching the dust settle. "What happens now?" she asks, her voice soft. I look at the town, my town, for better or worse. "We rebuild," I say. "The mine'll keep going, but it'll be different, fair. And we'll make damn sure no one forgets Mary Redstone." Clara nods, her eyes on the horizon where Elias disappeared. "Or her son," she adds. Years later, I hear stories. The mine's thriving, a partnership between the Cheyenne and the town, just like Mary wanted. Elias grows up strong, a lawyer like his mother, fighting for his people's rights across the West. Clara's store becomes a kind of legend, a place where a boy was fed and a town was saved. And me? I'm still driving cattle, still waking before dawn. But I carry something new now, a pride in knowing I was part of it, part of the day Silver Hollow faced its sins and chose justice. It started with a loaf of bread, a small act of kindness, and it changed everything. That's the lesson I'll carry to my grave. The smallest spark can light a fire that burns a whole town clean. That's not the end of Silver Hollow's story. Hit subscribe and join us for the next chapter, where justice gets even sweeter.